Yo, what's up? You're watching East Coast Garage. I'm Bruce and this is my 1986 Buick Grand National. And today I'm gonna tell you a story about why it took me 17 years to finally put aftermarket wheels on this car. So I'm also going to tell you some of the challenges I ran into doing the brake job. I'll give you some safety tips when using wheel spacers. I'm going to tell you why I prefer Jegs over Summit Racing. We're also going to put this car on the scales and see how much it weighs. So my buddy Doug's going to ride with me in the car while we talk about all those things. I've owned this car for 17 years and I've had the factory wheels on it the entire time. One of the reasons why, honestly, is because I love the center caps, how it has like the Turbo 6 emblem on it. I just didn't want to change it up. But the problem was, I did a big brake upgrade on this because basically I gave someone a ride in this a while back. I stepped on the brakes after doing, a full third gear run in it. And next thing you know, my brakes are fading at like miles an hour. No good. I'm not driving this car again until I have better brakes on it. And for what it's worth, I already had a lot of really good upgrades. I've got Hydro Boost, I've got a Wilwood master cylinder, steel braided lines all around. I've got cross drilled and slotted rotors. In the front, it had EBC yellow stuff pads on it.
Should have done the trick.
Yeah, but the problem was it wasn't enough surface area on the brake pad and rotor. The rotor was too small.
So it had a good enough pressure, it just didn't have enough surface area.
Yeah. And the factory calipers are 1 piston caliper. These calipers are 6 piston calipers, 3 on one side, 3 on the other.
Which is the best.
12.2 inch rotors with a billet aluminum hub on it, just super nice. They're lighter also. I dropped 15 pounds. I need this.
Exactly. You definitely need to stop this thing. It is an absolute missile. Anytime the brake pedal goes to the floor and the car's not slowing down, it is absolutely terrifying. I don't care what car you're in, but especially a car like this.
I really wanted to get the Grand National replica wheels, but they're constructed the same way as the factory Grand National wheels, and they weren't clearing this brake. I was going through several different options like drag stars with a staggered setup with like 17s on the front and 15s on the back because I want to keep a 15-inch tire so that I can have a tall tire still. I like to run a 275/60/15, so I have all that sidewall. They're only 4.5-inch wide front tires, and to get a DOT radial is like $330 for like a skinny front tire. So it's crazy. And on top of that, you lose some drivability, you lose some controllability. It isn't as comfortable, it isn't as quiet. It's not gonna handle all the potholes in this area as well.
Well, you don't want to get stuck in the rain with that either.
Nah, for sure.
You definitely don't want to get stuck in the rain
for sure. And for what it's worth, a wider front tire is gonna perform better for braking. And that's the whole reason why I did this upgrade. So I wouldn't want to take away from the performance of these awesome brakes that I just put on it in order to have this staggered setup.
The contact patch will be a lot smaller.
For sure.
When you start changing things like the rotors and calipers, there's a lot that goes into that, whether a wheel has taper so it gets smaller as it goes towards the face or not. Definitely can determine whether it's gonna fit or not or work for your situation. The thing about ordering them online is that you're not gonna know if it works until it gets to you and you try it on the car.
Exactly. So I ran across these Centerline Telsar 2.0s. They're true 2-piece rims. They have the rivets all the way around, and it gives it just a little bit more of that aggressive racing style. And they're aluminum wheels that only weigh 15 pounds a piece. Now, kind of like we were talking about before with all these other dimensions, that's obviously what I had in mind with it too, because Wilwood says it'll clear most 15-inch wheels, right?
Not all wheels are made the same. That's just, like I said, that's just all it is.
So I called up Centerline and asked them what the inside diameter is of this wheel. They couldn't tell me, which was kind of crazy to me because I was like, don't you have like the blueprints of these wheels? Like
you make them, right?
Yeah, dude.
You make them, so you should know all the dimensions of them, correct?
You know what? Let me call up Summit Racing. We've walked into Summit Racing before and been like, hey, let me see this part. You have
Dude, it got it, everything they had.
Yeah, dude.
Nitrous kits, big blowers.
So I look it up online and they have them in stock. So I call him up. I forget this dude's name. We'll just call him Bob. So you know what the inside diameter of this wheel is because maybe they got some more information on hand. I don't know. And of course they didn't. So I was like, can you pull one off the shelf and measure it out for me? I want to see if it clears my wheel. So he comes back with, man, it's going to take me like 7 to 10 days to get someone to go back into the warehouse and pull it out. And I said, Bob, let's play a little game. let's just say I walked into Summit Racing right now and said, hey, I want to buy this. Are you going to tell me it's going to take 7 to 10 days for someone to go into the warehouse for me to buy that? I highly doubt that. He's like, well, that's different. I said, I don't really see how so. He's like, well, you know, it's different when you have a customer in front of you. And I'm like, I'm a customer in front of you on the phone. You know what, Bob? Have a good day. And then I gave Jegs a ring. And that was probably the best thing that I did, because I got on the phone with this dude named Chuck. And let me tell you something.
It's always a wonderful man named Chuck.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
tell you the truth.
There's Chuck Norris, so I mean,
Chuck Norris.
I'm telling you right now, if you're trying to figure out anything, call Jegs and ask for Chuck. He had me an answer within probably 2 minutes. I asked him the same question I asked old Bob, you know, let me get my Centerline rep on the phone. I didn't think he was going to come back with an answer because I had already got off the phone with Centerline. And he gets back to me and he's like, 14.09 inches. I'm like, really? Wow, you found that out? Yeah, that's what Centerline said. Okay. I saw that the clearance was going to be pretty tight, so he got a Wilwood rep on the phone and was like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. That's going to be tight. So I got
But now you know what you're getting into, at least. Yep. At least you know what you're getting into.
Exactly. So I just got one wheel to test it out, and it fit. I could fit a finger in between the caliper and the wheel, which was great. I only need 80 thousandths of clearance. So I got the other wheels. Well, I figured out that the back would probably rub. The clearance between the frame isn't going to work. I can tell already that I only have about 1/4 of an inch from the inside of the wheel to the chassis, and the tires are going to rub. I'm going to have to run a spacer. The other problem is, even without a spacer, I don't have a whole lot of studs sticking out. When I bottom out a lug nut, I still have 2 to 3 threads showing on the nut. So I got some machined billet aluminum spacers. They're really nice. They fit nice and tight. They're not universal, and I have even less of a stud showing, so I'm definitely going to need new studs. If you go with spacers, you have to get billet aluminum that are machined specifically for your bolt pattern. Otherwise, they're going to walk around and they may not seat properly.
Tight clearances. Tight clearances.
You know, they're going up against some old brake drums. So I took my time and I sanded the brake drum where that spacer was going to sit. I wanted a smooth, finished surface for that to seat on. You absolutely have to retorque wheels after installing spacers. 25 to 50 miles of driving is kind of a rule of thumb.
So you're talking about you run it with the spacer on there.
Yep.
And then torque it again a separate time.
I had a torque wrench in the car I brought with me, and everything took turns every time. Now everything is seated and good. I don't have to retorque it anymore, but I wanted to put that out there.
Now, would you say if you take it off and put it back on, do you think the same process would have to be done?
Absolutely.
You'd have to retorque it.
And I ended up putting 2.5-inch wheel studs on it, which was kind of a pain in the ass because I had to take all the drums apart. I had to take the wheel cylinder out to create a window for me to feed the stud through because I didn't want to take the whole rear diff apart.
Yep.
And then I didn't want to beat on the old studs to get them out because then I'm beating up against the shims and the bearings in the rear diff.
Putting unnecessary stress on it.
Yeah, and if you got seat clips, which I don't, but if you have seat clips, it's not cool because you're potentially damaging the seat clip. I ended up pulling out my ball joint removal tool, and I had just enough clearance for the stud to come out the back end. Nice. I hit it with an impact, the stud spit right out.
Beautiful.
So even if you don't care about beating on it with a hammer, if you think that's okay or whatever, fine. But this way is easier than that anyways.
Absolutely.
I use way less energy. And it's that simple. Boom, it's out. So at the end of the day, I ended up with a 1/2-inch wheel spacer, and I still have a good 1/4 inch of the stud sticking out past the lug nut. So I have full bite.
Yep.
And I like it because now my back spacing is basically the same like it was with the factory wheels.
Right.
But because these are 8 inches, the wheel itself comes out 1 more inch. I didn't have to roll my fender. I didn't have to trim anything. It clears just fine. And it gives it an even more aggressive stance.
Right. It does. It definitely does. You can see it.
It's a win-win, really.
It is.
So now with the wheels and the brakes, I lost 98, 100 pounds. And it's a noticeable difference. That's rotating weight. That's awesome. I didn't even plan on that. That's just icing on the cake. So I just put it on the scale to see what it weighs. I was surprised. It's 3240 without me in it. And that's super light for these cars. I've seen these weigh 3,600 pounds from the factory. Some other things that I have for weight saving is an aluminum drive shaft, aluminum F-body radiator, 15-pound Braille battery, aluminum heads, no AC, and no spare tire. With the wheels and the brake upgrade, I'm under 3,300 pounds dry without me in it. That's awesome. I figured out a way to retain the factory Turbo 6 emblem on the center caps. So I was looking on eBay and all these different websites to see if I could find any stickers or emblems that would work on the center caps, and I had just zero luck with it. Right. And then I was like, wait a second, I know a guy that owns a print shop. So I hit up my buddy Nick at Goat Locker Printing, and I'm like, hey dude, can you do this? And what he came up with are these beautiful Grand National Turbo 6 emblems. He printed out several different sizes. This adhesive vinyl is good for 5 years in the sun without fading. So he sits in the garage. It'll probably last 20 years, going to car shows and whatnot. He came through, and man, I'm telling you right now, if you got any car stuff that you want, other than a full body wrap, but you want like a banner on your windshield, or custom stickers, anything you want, you can email it to him and he'll print it out.
One thing that I want to say that's perfect is the gap all the way around.
Yeah.
The gap down here on the bottom, it's centered really nicely in the way that it sits in the wheel.
Honestly, it was very tedious to install.
Oh, I bet.
I got like the smallest cotter key, and I stuck the sticker to the cotter key.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
I was over here like,
yep,
yeah,
up,
like,
down, left, right,
dude,
side to side.
And
yep.
I'm not gonna lie, I messed up one or two of these.
Oh yeah.
And to top it off, I just had to do the dice, man.
I know, I just noticed
I just
that
had
when
to
you
do
were moving
it.
the car over here. As I was standing out here looking, because this is the first time that I looked, really took a good look at it, and you fired it up, I'm like, are those dice?
Yeah, man. I mean,
that's cool.
Now I'm gonna get a little bit into the nitty gritty with these brakes. If you're going with the Wilwood 12.19-inch rotors with 6-piston calipers, you are going to have to do fab work. I had to cut the spindles. That was probably the biggest part of the job. And then there are 2 holes that the caliper bracket mount to that require drilling out a little bit more and tapping it. I have like 40 taps in my garage, and I have this tap. Not a single auto parts store in a 50-mile radius had this tap.
It's always the one that you need that you don't have.
But you know who did come through? Harbor Freight, baby.
Oh, Harbor Freight has come a long ways over the years. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Oh yeah, so I got that good old Pittsburgh
there you go
dying tap set, and I was like, you know what, let's go. A couple other things that were kind of annoying. When it's all said and done and I'm putting the wheels on, my lug nuts did not thread on the provided studs.
All that work just for it to not thread.
And I went back to the instructions, and it was right there in front of me. This is the thread pitch for the wheel studs. G-bodies have been around forever. This kit was made for a G-body. So why Wilwood didn't say you're gonna need different lug nuts, I don't know. Instead, they were just like, here's the lug nut thread count. I'm gonna look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely not my thread count, dog. I was thinking about that the other day,
Because everybody knows the pitch and thread of their lug nuts on their car factory.
In the meantime, I'm gonna go bleed the brakes, and get everything ready. So when I get these, I'm ready to go, and I can go test it out.
And then what happened?
Yeah. Well, and then what happened was I went to go attach my brake line to the new caliper, and it wouldn't thread in. It was a different thread pitch too.
Oh,
so
man,
I go back to the instructions. It says this: we recommend steel braided brake lines for these calipers. If you don't have them, here's the Wilwood part number for the kit, right? Of course. And I saw that, but I was like, I already got steel braided brake lines, so I don't need it. Right? Right after that, it said what thread pitch of the caliper fitting is.
It's the devil's in the details.
So again, there's a thread pitch. Like I'm gonna see that and just be like, oh yeah, that's definitely different. I know that's different. I needed to do this brake upgrade a long time ago.
Yeah.
Don't do what I did. If you need to do a brake upgrade, go order some parts and get to work.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
That was just like,
wow, dude. Wow. I wasn't expecting it to be like that. Jesus. I mean, you can tell when a car wants to stop and it pitches down. I mean, it felt like the bumper was about to touch the ground.
I did an emergency brake with my buddy Rob in the car, and I scared the crap out of him, man. It was hilarious too, man. A little aggressive. So this is what it is. This is the current iteration of the car, and I'm super happy with the brakes, super happy with the way it looks, the stance.
I like it. I love the way it looks. I think it came out perfect. I think the little details with the dice, definitely the Turbo 6 emblem.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And it feels good, even though, you know, I went through some issues and it was on jack stands for a while. For what it's worth, it was fun. And at the end of a project like this, you get to stand back and just look at it and be like, man, I did that, you know? So yeah, dude, thanks for going on a ride today and let me tell my story, dude.
Oh, absolutely,
I had to tell
dude.
someone about it because it was a journey, and forever I've been like, oh, I'm gonna keep the factory wheels, give it that factory look. Now it's like a factory plus look, and it still has them factory Turbo 6 emblems on it. So I'm like, yes.
Yep.
I appreciate y'all checking out this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new wheels on the car. I'd love to hear your opinion. And coming up next is a 1966 F100 on bags. It's a beautiful truck and a cool story. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you there.